So, you've decided you want to be a World War II bomb girl. I hope you're up for the task. It's highly skilled, dangerous work, making bullets and filling bombs. Let's see if you're up to the task. So I'm going to ask you some questions to see if you're suitable to become a World War II bomb girl. Let me know in the comment section down below how you would get on and if you're suitable for the role. Question 1. Are you ready to do your bit for king and country? So Winston Churchill described these women as soldiers with different weapons but the same courage. Without their work, Spitfires would have no bullets, the navies no shells, etc., etc. They had a really important role to play in the war effort. Within a year of the war actually starting, they needed an extra 1.5 million workers in the factories, and most of these were women. It is important to remember though that some of them were men, but of course a lot of men had been called up or were already doing things in the war effort, so that's why a lot of them were women. The first call up for women came in March of 1941. And this was looking for able-bodied women aged 18 to 50, but the first women to actually enter the factories were women aged between 20 and 21 years of age, and that included my grandmother, who this video is dedicated to her memory because my late grandmother was a World War II bomb girl. Next question, question 2. You're not scared of dying, are you? So, as well as the obvious threat from up above in the air, you have the threat of working in the factory itself. It was very dangerous work. If you think about what you're doing, you know, one little accident could blow yourself up to smithereens. It's very dangerous, as well as the fact that you're handling highly toxic chemicals. Working in the factories means that highly toxic chemicals and dangerous substances are something that you're going to come into contact with quite a bit. Some of them you have to handle by hand only. So for instance, if you're making a pellet, then you have to use a compound called tetril, which turned your hands yellow. And the women using these were known as canaries or yellow ladies. I remember my grandmother actually, because we live in the middle of the countryside, she used to say that she used to come home and she used to be walking across the fields and her hands were yellow. You know in that scene in Only Fools and Horses, it's Mother Nature's son and Del Boy says goodnight to Denzel and Trigger, and they hold up their hands and their hands are yellow. It's a bit like that. It's a yellow substance and it's toxic and it's dangerous. But it wasn't the only one which was. Some of the substances caused women to have asthma. My grandmother had asthma. Things like dermatitis and other skin conditions was a problem, as well as other breathing problems, and some women's teeth even fell out because of the chemical exposure. Some workers died from the explosions in the factories, some workers died after working in the factories years later, but because of the effects of all the chemical exposure. Over the years, the companies did try to reduce the risk. I remember my grandma was talking about at the end of kind of the line thing, there was this big massive tub thing that if you got the chemicals on you, you'd literally be picked up and chucked in it, which sounds absolutely horrific, but it's to get the chemicals off you. And the workers in there also used to drink milk because they thought it used to reduce the effects of the chemical exposure. Question 3. I hope you're up for any work that's been given to you. So there were 4 different types of factories. There were engineering, which were making your castings for your bullets, your shells. There was the small arms factories where you're making your bullets. There was the explosive factories and the filling factories. Now the filling factories were the most dangerous ones, but you could be sent to any of them. 4. Can you keep your work hush hush? For obvious reasons, work needed to be kept a secret. They didn't want the knowledge of what was happening in the factories and where they were to get into the wrong hands. It was a case that some people in the local community didn't even know that they had a filling factory right on their door. This is because they're either in the middle of nowhere, the factories, or because the factories might be underground, or because the workers just kept it really secret. We have to remember that the women in the factory were ordinary women. They were war widows, they were young brides, they were grandmothers, or in my grandma's case, she was 21 years old when she went into the factory. So it's quite normal for them to want to go out and discuss their war work. But they couldn't. It had to be kept a secret, and this was reflected in their uniform. They didn't have a uniform outside the factory. Outside the factory, they were just wearing their civvy clothes. So things like, I mean, if you imagine walking down a town in wartime Britain, you expect to see soldiers in their uniforms, women in nurses' uniforms and things like that. And people in for instance, the WVS, sometimes they're given a free cup of tea because they're in uniform and they're doing their bit for the war work. But if you don't have your uniform, it looks like you're not doing anything, and it's always that lost sense of pride, but it's really important that you keep it a secret. 5. Can you follow the rules? Day-to-day routine in the factories was observed to the absolute letter. Rules had to be observed because the work needed a steady hand and complete concentration, and one slip could be fatal. I mean, there is, you could be working on something like a detonator, which was the size of like half of an aspirin pill, so it's tiny. You needed to concentrate. Don't botch it, because either you could end up dead or it could be fatal to the soldier that you're sending it to on the front line, and it's not fair. There was one worker who lit up a cigarette and they got a prison sentence. Hardly surprising, but I don't know why you'd do that when you're in a factory full of explosives, but it's important. Of course, that is an extreme case where someone got a prison sentence, but if you break the rules, you could be fired from your job. Also, rules, as in most workplaces, sometimes are broken because of the high demands. You've just got to try and get away with it as best you can. 6. Are you willing to work away from home? So the factories operated 24 hours a day. It's hard work, it's tiring work, and as I said earlier, you could be sent to any one of those 4 types of factories. So you could be sent about 4 hours away from home, you could be sent 2 hours away from home, you don't know. However, there were hostel type accommodations there for women and other workers who were sent far away from home, and because the pay was quite good, you could just pay a little bit, you could stay there and then just turn up to the factory, easy peasy. However, that means being away from home, and a lot of women didn't want to do that, so most women did commute into the factories, even if it means that they've got a 2-hour journey. 7. Can you work under pressure? There were high targets to hit in the factories because, of course, there was a war on. There's high pressure and high demands. Unless it's your break, you cannot just get up and walk around. You have to sit and you have to do your work religiously. There is even supervisors logging your toilet breaks to try and meet with the pressures and the demands that was going on in the factories. If an explosion happened outside your area, you do not do anything about it. You just carry on your work, because remember, careless talk costs lives. And if by chance you do see someone get injured or they do die, then there is no stress or guidance counselling. You just have to get on with your work, because remember, at the end of the day, as Winston Churchill described you, you're a soldier, and you just soldiers carry on. 8. So let me tell you a typical day and let me know if you'd be up for it. So of course you start off perhaps with a 2-hour trip to get there. Yay, train, bus, bike, however it is. Then you get into the factories and you go into what's called a shifting house, where you change out of your civvy clothes into either overalls, or you get changed into top and trousers, something quite plain, basic, and then a headscarf like what I'm wearing on my head today. Try to dress bomb girl-ish. However, make sure you don't have any hairpins in, because those are contraband items. Once you are in, then you go and you do your 8-hour shift of whatever it is. You might have a job where you're sat down next to other people and you might be able to hear yourself think, or you might have a job, for instance, pushing pellets through metal. So you've got like this big machine and you've got this big hammer and you have to press it and push it through. Doing that for 8 hours. Of course, you do get a chance for a tea break and your lunch, which is a nice chance to catch up, but no gossiping about what you're doing because each people might be doing something different. You might be sat next to someone, but they're doing a completely different job to you. And then once you've done your 8-hour shift, making sure that you don't have any contraband items, because things like sweets, cigarettes, hair grips, they were all contraband. And you had these danger building men going around checking on you and don't get into trouble. Once you've done your 8-hour shift, you go back into your shifting house, you get out of your uniform, back into your civvy clothes, go back on your 2-hour trip back home, ready to do it all again tomorrow. Whew. Okay, last but not least, let me tell you a little bit about the positives of working in the factories. So first of all, pay. Pay was actually quite good for the war work. it wasn't too bad at all. Large factories did things such as cinema screenings, they did some shopping and nursery time, they allocated dances and drama groups and social clubs. In factories, it was a nice kind of environment to chat on your tea breaks and lunches about just day-to-day life, because you've got to remember that these are ordinary women and they just want to make friends and talk. Something that I really like is that celebrities of the day such as Vera Lynn and the royal family went and visited the factories. And I think my favourite thing that I learned about the Bomb Girls when researching for this video was that there were letters from the troops read to the Bomb Girls and the other workers, because remember there were men working in the factories too, to say thank you very much for their war work that they did. So there we go. How'd you get on? I'm going to be honest, I don't know how I'd get on being a bomb girl. I, however, am very proud to be the granddaughter of a bomb girl. My grandmother was a very incredible and strong woman, and I'm very proud to be her granddaughter. Now, if you'd like to learn more about what it'd be like to be a World War II bomb girl, you can check out this book, which really helped me for the making of this video. This is Bomb Girls by Jackie Hyams. Britain's Secret Army, the Munition Women of World War II. In here we have a little section just about the general things that I've spoken about really. At the back there are lots of case studies of women's personal experiences at different factories, and in the middle there are lots of fantastic photographs that you can go and check out, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's a really good and interesting book, and it's a nice quick read. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you check out the further reading. Let me know in the comment section down below how you'd get on as a World War II bomb girl, and what would you like to be next? So you want to be a blah blah blah. We've been a suffragette, we've been a flapper, a bright young thing in the 1920s and 30s, and now we've been a bomb girl. What shall we be next? I hope you enjoyed this video, and take care, and I shall see you soon for the next one. Bye!